Hello, my friends. How are you today? It's Sue from Sue Helen Designs, and today we are on Sewing in Slippers with Sue, and we're going to take a look at a couple of new products that I got in the mail the other day. I'm really excited about my Caterpillar Glow cutting table, as well as the tempered glass top for that cutting table where I currently have my iron sitting. So if you're curious about the Caterpillar project products, I have agreed to test those out and then I'll write a report on a blog in about a month's time. In the meantime, I want you to help me look at these Caterpillar products, and I'd love to hear in the comments if you have tried any of the Caterpillar products, what your impression is, what you like about them, what you don't like about them, because I want to get a well-rounded review of these products. So there are 3 products that I'm going to be evaluating, and I would love to have your input, and I'm going to show you those 3 products today. Now, before we do all of that, I want to let you know about some important things that are coming up. Our gradations quilt along has just finished. We did 8 weeks where we made the gradations quilt with a bunch of students, and they are coming together next week on the 26th for our gradations graduation. So if you have ever participated in gradations before, you are welcome to come to our gradations graduation, where you're going to see a show and tell of all of the latest gradations projects. Now, if you do have a gradations project of your own and you either want to finish it before next week or you have finished it in the past, we would love to have you come to show and tell. So how do you get on that list where I send you the Zoom invite? Well, if you've ever taken any of the courses with us before, if you sign up for the notifications on that course each time we run it, you'll get all of the notifications when we have a show and tell or when we have a group meeting. So that brings us to what's our next project. I'm super excited to tell you that we're going to start My Magical Garden today. It's been a long time in coming. We've been excited about this project for quite some time now. We've been sharing it with you, and I've had it in the background here for just about a couple of months. So I'm super excited to kick off My Magical Garden today. So if you have not yet signed up for My Magical Garden, there is still time. We can get you in to our 4 o'clock kickoff session. So let me explain to you how these online courses work. The online courses are self-contained. You could take the online course by yourself in the privacy of your own home with your slippers on. You can certainly watch the videos, cut all of the shapes, follow the printed instructions, and you can get your magical garden quilt made all by yourself. Now, there are 9 sessions to this project. Now, you can do that in 9 weeks. You can do it in 9 months. That's completely up to you. But what we're doing this time is we're running the quilt along for 9 months. So those people that have already started My Magical Garden, you can jump right in and continue along to finish your project. For those of you who have not yet started My Magical Garden, today is the day we're going to share what colors you have chosen for your quilt. We're going to make our color chart, and we're going to look at the preparation instructions so that you can get started this month with month 1, blocks 1 and 2 of My Magical Garden. So not a member yet? Come join us for My Magical Garden today at 4. You'll need to join so I can send you the Zoom invitation. Okay, so those are our online courses that are currently finishing and starting. So today we're going to be talking about what to do if you're not quite ready for one of these longer term projects. So we're going to be talking about my patterns today. Patterns are a great way to start learning how to rotary cut your applique. If you are a self-starter, if you do not need an instructor, if you are ready to go, you've got your tools, and you just need some ideas on how to use them, the patterns are a great way to start. So we're going to be diving into some of those patterns, showing you the skill level needed for each of the patterns, and we're going to be evaluating our caterpillar table today. So good morning, Kathy from Ohio. It sounds like I'm underwater, huh? Let me see. Elaine, thank you for letting me know that. I'm going to move my microphone over here, and I want you to let me know if that sounds better. So Elaine, go ahead and let me know if you're getting a good sound. Kathy from Ohio, am I getting good sound? Elaine, often it is the internet connection on your end that might be the problem. So please give me a thumbs up if I am getting good sound out to you. Anita in New York, welcome. So glad that you're here. So yeah, let's go ahead and let's start to look at some of the patterns that I have produced. It's better. Okay, thank you. For rotary cut applique. Not good. Somebody says it's not good and somebody says it's better. So I think it is probably an individual thing where you may have a poor internet connection and you're getting a little bit jumbled sound. But other people say it's good, so it must be okay. All right, let's go ahead and turn my camera down to my workstation. I want to go ahead and show you the caterpillar table. And I'm going to walk on back here to my demo table, and we're going to just lift up that microphone, make sure that we can get some good old sound back here. So when we have an online course, that online course comes with PDF instructions. So you can print out the PDF instructions month by month. And you can get everything that you need for that class in the printed instructions. So what I recommend you do is you grab yourself a folder or a notebook, and I like to use a 3-ring binder. We're going to put some dividers in there for each month, and you can print out your instructions. I like to print them on my color printer because there's a lot of good pictures in there. And the photographs look really good with a colored photograph, and it really helps you to settle where you're going to put your colors. So if you don't want to use up all that ink on your printer, you can absolutely print those in black and white, and that is going to give you something that you can still follow along with. You can read up on everything, but it doesn't really help you with that color placement. So if you do want full color photos and you don't want to use up your printer ink, you can order the supplemental pattern. It's all professionally printed by my friend Bob at Clark Mailing, and they do a beautiful job with the printings. So that printout is available for our My Magical Garden members who want the printed version of the pattern. So let's go over here to our caterpillar table. I told you I received this in the mail just a few days ago. I'm going to put my patterns off to the side for now. And I wanted to do a little bit of testing on this caterpillar table. So the other day, the Ahead of the Curve members had an all-day sit and sew. So during our all-day sit and sew, I was working on my quilt label. And in order to make my quilt label, I needed to trace through the words that I had printed on my computer, the words and the numbers. Now you can see I didn't get my label done, and I had a quilt show to attend. Unfortunately, I didn't get the label finished in time for the quilt show. So I made a really simple, quick old label, and I'll get this one done when the quilt comes back from the show. I will have had this stitched, all of the numbers on my temperatures and all of the words on my cherrywood leaves label. But what I wanted to show you was how easy that was to do using the Caterpillar cutting mat. Now, this is not just a light box. I know that a lot of us have light boxes that we love, and you don't really need two. So one light box is going to be sufficient for you. So why did I buy myself a new light box? Well, first of all, mine that I have is really small. So I wanted a larger light box so I could do that great big label and other projects. But this is not only a light box. This light box comes with, and it's not a separate purchase. This cutting mat comes on top of your light box. So they do come in different sizes. This Caterpillar light box is the large one. It's the biggest one. I think it's called the Pro. Now, I want to tell you that they sell this tempered glass mat. The tempered glass mat is made so that you can use your iron right on top of your table. But what it is not intended for is being on top of this cutting mat. So you can see, or you may be able to see, that I've just warped this cutting mat by putting my iron even hovering over the cutting mat. And ladies, you know I did this. Some of you know that I did this the other day also. When I was on our all-day sit and sew last Friday, I also warped this mat. So what did I do? I turned the plexiglass or the tempered glass board over, and because it's very hot from the iron, I'm just pressing down on the cutting mat, and that gave me a perfectly flat cutting mat. Now I did this from experience. I knew that I could flatten out this mat if I just press it down, and I'm going to just sit and let that cool. Well, this is an LED light box, so there's no heat from the light itself. The only time you're going to put heat on your mat is with your iron. So I mentioned to the Caterpillar company that I didn't want the plexiglass table because I knew I was going to do this by mistake. I knew that I would accidentally put it on top of my cutting mat, because you can use the cutting mat and the light box together. I knew I would forget it there on the cutting mat, and that would give me a warped board. So I told them I don't want the tempered glass top, but I decided that in order to give this a good evaluation, I needed the tempered glass top so that I could share it with all of you and tell you how I like it. But here we go again. I did it again, and honestly, I did it by mistake this time. I wasn't thinking about having that mat on there, and I automatically rested my iron on the tempered glass top. So if you get the Caterpillar table, if you get the Caterpillar light board, I love the mat that comes with it, but I'm not a huge fan of that tempered glass top. So I'm going to go ahead and add a whole bunch of weight on there. I'm going to put all kinds of books and things on there in order to make sure that that mat is flattened out in no time at all. So I'm going to cover over this half. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to demonstrate cutting on this side of the mat. So let me grab my fabrics. I have this wonderful collection of 30s fabrics. In fact, the quilt where I used my 30s fabrics was in a quilt show this past weekend. And I'm going to share with you some of my patterns and a great place to use some of that 30s fabrics. But I know I have a whole bunch of fused fabrics in here. Here is my bundle of fused fabrics. So I'm going to grab some of those fused fabrics so we can see how it works out to use those fused fabrics on the cutting mat itself. Now, one of the reasons why I bought this mat is because I wanted this for demonstration purposes. What's going to happen when I cut with my tools when I'm demonstrating? Well, it's going to depend on the fabric. If that fabric has too much light coming through it, it's going to be very distracting for you to cut. This is the way we're used to cutting without any light at all. And let's go to our lowest light setting on the table. There are 3 light settings, and I think those 3 light settings are going to be very, very helpful. So I'm going to layer up to 3 or 4 fabrics here at a time, and I want to see how it feels to cut with my Leaves Galore template using that light table. And it certainly is going to depend on the fabrics themselves. This light color fabric probably is going to be a little bit bright with that going through. The green fabric is wonderful with the light going through, and so is the blue. So let's try cutting these different colors on top of the light table. I want to see what it does when I'm cutting. So if I'm cutting with my Leaves Galore Norm tool, one of the things that looks really wonderful is that the lines on the tool and the lines on the board can all line up. Now, look at these points on the board. These points are coming out to a solid line here, and then 3 inches below, there's a solid line here. 3 inches below, there's a solid line there. Now, I always can line up those points with my board, but with the Caterpillar table, I can also line up those lines with my template. When you see the lines on the board through your fabrics, you're able to keep everything nice and square and straight with the lines on the board and the lines on the tool. So I think that that part will be very, very helpful. Now, this is only 1 layer of fabric. There's no way I'm going to see all of those lines when I'm cutting 4 layers of fabric at a time. But let's start with 1 and see how we like the features of this board. Well, first of all, I can really see where I've already cut. When I say line up the dashed line with the line that you've already cut, you can really see that very, very easily with this cutting mat because the light shines right through the cut line. So I'm finding that to be helpful. Even though this fabric is white, you can still see a white line where I've just cut. So I can find that that part is very, very helpful. Now I'm not getting all the way through, so that means I picked up a blade that's not sharp. So the very first thing I need to do is change my rotary cutter to one with a sharp blade. Now, I don't cut 1 layer at a time normally. I cut 3 to 4 layers at a time. So I want to test out this system when we have so many layers that we're not able to see that white right through the layers. So let's put our layers here. I've got 4 layers now. And let's try to make the exact same cut. Now, when we have this many layers, we're not seeing the lines through the fabric, but we are still seeing the lines down here and up here that line up with our tool. So that would be very helpful to keep everything nice and square, straight, and parallel. So let's go ahead and make our first cut for our standard 3-inch leaves. That looks good. And then when we lift up the tool, you can see that light shining through. It makes it very easy to see where you've just cut. So we're going to line up the dash line with the cut line. Now it's also easy to see that I've got a big gap right here. So I don't want that big gap. I want all of my layers pushed together before I cut. And I can really see right here if the layers are all together or not. So that's helpful. I think for demonstration purposes, this will be really nice, and only you will be able to tell if this is a product that would be helpful for you when cutting with any ruler, either your straight rulers or your curved rulers. So that looks pretty good. I love the way that it illuminates everything under your fabric and under your ruler. But once again, once the ruler is on the fabric and the fabric is 4 layers deep, I'm not seeing any of the lines except below and above. But when I do make that first cut, that would not matter for a straight ruler, right? If I'm making my first cut with a straight ruler, like this one right here, I do like the fact that I can easily find the lines on the board with the tool. But when I make a straight cut, I'm pulling this fabric away anyway. So the next cut that I make, I'm not seeing anything that I need to line up with except for the lines on the board. So that's not quite as helpful with straight lines. The ruler works well. The illumination works beautifully, but I don't see a need for that when I'm using a straight ruler. But when I'm using this curved ruler, it really is helpful to see that dash line and how it lines up with what I've already cut. Let's do that one more time. I love to test out this system. So we've got our first cut there. It's very easy to see. We're going to slide our tool down by 1 full leaf shape. Now, when you are in the My Magical Garden course, the very first step in My Magical Garden is cutting all of the 3-inch leaves for the entire quilt. Now, that might seem like a Herculean task, right? There are a lot of 3-inch leaves in that quilt. But when you can cut 4 layers at a time, it's amazing how fast you can make hundreds of leaves. It should only take you about 2 or 3 hours to cut all of the 3-inch leaves for the entire My Magical Garden quilt. And that technique that I used is exactly what you would use to cut out those leaves for My Magical Garden. Now, I want to come back to you and look at the patterns, but before I do, let's see if I saved my cutting mat, my brand new cutting mat that I warped by putting my iron on this tempered glass top. The tempered glass top is made so that you can put your iron on the glass, on the light surface, but it is not made to put on top of your cutting mat. And that's where I went wrong. But look at that. It is smooth as can be because I used the tempered glass top and then I put some books on top. I'm going to let that cool a little bit more. because by putting the books on top, that piece right there is still warm. And I'm going to just let that sit while I come over to you and talk about those patterns. All right, so let me change my camera back to the standard camera. There we go. Okay. Hey, so Ellie's here. Good morning, everybody, from Mary Pop. Cindy from Pennsylvania. I still sound a bit strange. Okay, somebody else said it sounds better. I hope that it is good for everybody. Once again, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and if it doesn't sound like I'm underwater. All right, so I want to talk to you about how to get started with rotary cut applique. If you are new to this process, or you're not new to the process, you just want to investigate what else you can do with the tools. Now, all of these patterns that I'm going to be showing you, all of these patterns are available on the website. So I certainly could just walk you through the website, but it's kind of fun to show you the actual pattern so that you can see them up close and personal. And I want to, I probably will go to the website because I'm not sure I have every different pattern. And on the website, they are divided by the tool that they use. So let's head on over to the website. I'm going to, let me just put this back here. I'm going to share my screen with you. And over here on the website, I will bring up the patterns before I share my screen. Let's see. Let's see if I'm able to do this. Yeah, it's not wanting me. There we go. It's not wanting me to leave this page. So let's see if I can go ahead and get my my website open and on the other screen so that I can share with all of you. So let's go to present and share screen. And we're going to go here to see Ellen Designs and share. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted to do. So we're going to go to the shop key over here on our menu bar. In our shop key, we have all of our applique patterns listed separately. So you can go to the shop and you can type in a particular pattern that you want to see. And I'm going to give you a hint here how to do that. Where it says search the shop, you just need to use one keyword for that shop. So you can put in pattern, or if you can be more specific, if you know some of the words in the pattern, let's say we want to do Unchain My Heart. So we're going to put in unchain as our keyword, just the one word, because you might find Unchain My Heart spelled different ways, with spaces, without spaces, etc. So if you just put in one word, it's going to be an easier way to search. So under Unchain My Heart, we do have a mini Unchain My Heart free download, and everybody can go and get that right now. But you can also get the Hearts and More pattern. So because it's a Hearts and More pattern, that means it uses my Hearts and More tools. So let's click on that pattern. I've got one right here with me. This is how it comes as a little booklet. Now you can get the patterns as a little booklet like this, or you can get the PDF patterns. Now, not all of our patterns have been converted to PDFs, but we're working on that. And Janie has been converting all of our patterns to PDFs. So normally you will have a choice. Do you want the physical pattern or the PDF pattern? Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this particular pattern is because it is such an easy one. If you have ever made a jelly roll quilt with 2.5-inch strips, you know it's a lot of sewing. And during our Schoodic retreat last year, we did a jelly roll race, and it took us a lot longer than anticipated. I thought it was going to be an hour or an hour and a half, and it took us about 2.5 hours to sew that jelly roll lace. Well, this pattern is made from 7-inch strips. So you can imagine how fast that goes together. And then we just have the applique links to the chain and the applique heart lock on that chain. So it's a super easy pattern, really fast and fun to do. So Unchain My Heart is definitely a level 1 pattern. That would be an easy pattern for somebody that's just starting out. So I would love to show you what other patterns are level 1 patterns. So let's go to our Hearts and More applique patterns, and we'll pick out all of those that are simple and easy. The Love Letters pattern, and that comes as a regular pattern or a PDF. Love Letters is a super easy pattern for a 3-dimensional heart that folds up into a little love letter that you can leave for someone. It's an absolutely delightful little pattern and super easy to make. Other really easy patterns in this collection are the Clamshells and More, a Hearts and More pattern, and Christmas Baubles. Those 2 patterns are beginner patterns. Those would definitely be level 1. Then we do move up a little bit into some level 2 patterns, such as Conversation Hearts. Why would Conversation Hearts be a level 2? Well, because it includes piecing and applique. The same with He Loves Me. He Loves Me has piecing and applique, and Jasmine has piecing and applique. 2 of Hearts is another intermediate level pattern with piecing and applique. Now, Inner Circle right here is a super easy applique quilt to make, but what makes it fun and challenging is to challenge yourself to do the machine quilting. So this is all free motion quilted, and that made a wonderful class. Now, of course, I can't teach free motion quilting in a pattern, but we can certainly teach all of those techniques in our Ahead of the Curve workshops. So this is a nice little collection of patterns going from the most basic to the more advanced. So an advanced pattern would be bouquet. We've got a more advanced pattern called Double Turbine. That's from Tina Dillard. She's a Studio 180 teacher, and she combines piecing and applique, as well as that My Magical Garden printed pattern. So when you get the My Magical Garden printed pattern, I think it's about, I want to say 180 pages. Let's see, I'm not quite sure. But this is the companion to the course. We do have 30 of those in stock, and they are beautifully printed, all hole punched, so that you can put them directly into your binder. Now, we haven't shopped yet for applique patterns using the Leaves Galore tools. So let's go over and do that. Now, you'll see that some of the patterns are in more than one category. However, this one right here, All Hallows Eve, that's in the wrong category. I'm going to have Janie fix that one. But all the other patterns on this page are made with the Leaves Galore tools. We have some patterns that are very basic, like anniversary rings, hopscotch. Those are fairly easy patterns to make, and I would consider those level 1 patterns. Melissa's quilt is a level 1 pattern. Even though this looks like a complex quilt, it's really simple to do because they're just one basic shape in that quilt. Now on our borders, we did add, in addition to the melon shape, we did add some 6-petal flowers and some vines, but those are all easy to accomplish with the instructions inside the pattern. So Melissa's quilt would be a level 1 pattern. hopscotch, and anniversary rings. Now, when you want to get a little bit more complex, oh, I'm sorry, Old Glory. Old Glory is also a level 1 pattern. When you want to do something a little bit more complex and include some piecing and some applique, I just love this quilt. Get your kicks on Route 66. I love this reproduction of a vintage quilt that I found at an antique shop on Route 66. And if you watched my Facebook Live over the weekend, you will see that as I turned the corner in my Thimble Pleasures Quilt Guild show this week, this beautiful red quilt had a beautiful red ribbon on it. I just love it when I'm totally surprised by a ribbon at a quilt show, and that was a nice surprise. So get your kicks on Route 66 would be an intermediate level pattern. Boy, does that look complex. Wow, does that have a lot of curved piecing in it? But it's not curved piecing. It's super easy, fusible, rotary cut applique. So if you haven't done Get Your Kicks yet, that's a beautiful quilt that you can make very easily. A level 1 quilt would be, sorry, I did this before and I left one out. The Old Glory pattern, cork notebook cover, anniversary rings, hopscotch, and Melissa's quilt. Those would all be level 1 quilts. It gets a little more complex when you start adding more shapes and curved edges. So the Promise Ring quilt has more shapes and curved edges, so I'd call that level 2. The Flowers Galore placemats have those curved edges and a unique binding method, so that's a little bit more complex. That's a level 2. Hope's Diamond would be a level 2. Christmas Ribbons, Eve's Garden, Splish Splash. I wouldn't make those as your first quilt, but they could definitely be made as a second or third quilt. Hugs and Kisses, absolutely a level 2. Starstruck is a level 2. Wow, that looks like a complex quilt. It certainly is not. The only thing complex about this quilt is that it is set on point, and that's why I'm calling it a level 2. The applique is level 1. The applique is easy, but Starstruck is set on point, and that can be a little bit more complicated for newer quilters. Season's Greetings has this sawtooth edge on the bottom, and we did quilt first and applique after, and we have some hand cutting on the words for Season's Greetings. So I'm calling Season's Greetings a level 2. Cherrywood Leaves, I'm going to call that a level 2 only because it's such a large project. That's a year-long project that I made as a temperature quilt. Now, by itself, it's a beautiful quilt. If you want to make it as a temperature quilt, all of the instructions are inside that pattern. So there you have it. Those are all of our our Leaves Galore patterns. Now I left out Eve's Garden. That is a level 3 because there's a lot of shapes in there that you cannot cut with Hearts and More or Leaves Galore. And so it is a lot of hand cutting, and that's why I'm putting it into the level 3 category for our patterns. So there you have it. These are beautiful patterns that you can make with your Leaves Galore and Hearts and More tools. And if you want a pattern where you can store all of your Leaves Galore and Hearts and More tools, I think we need to have a class on this. I have not had an Ahead of the Curve class on the bag yet because I haven't made my bag yet. So I need to make a Quilter's Keep so that I can teach it in the Ahead of the Curve membership. So I'm going to come back to you now, and I want to answer any questions you have about, I'm going to stop the screen share. I want to answer any questions you have about my experience with the Caterpillar mat and cutting station, as well as that tempered glass top. And I want to see if you have any pattern questions as well. So Elaine, you've bought the bag pattern and it's looking at you. I love it. That pattern has been looking at me for about 10 years and I need to tackle that project. I haven't ordered the zippers yet because I haven't chosen my fabric. So it's time that I choose a fabric for that pattern and get started making the bag. Maybe Janie and I will make that a challenge and the two of us can both make that bag so that we can get it ready for an Ahead of the Curve workshop. So look, Ellie's here. We've got Alice Patterson. Hey, Alice. Cynthia Brown's here from Pennsylvania. So nice to see all of you here today. You have the same pattern looking at you, Brenda. Brenda, I think we need to tackle that one. So I will if you will. I'm excited to, oh, that pattern is not my pattern, by the way. That's why I haven't made it yet. That was made for me by a quilt shop out in Sturbridge. That quilt shop has since closed. So we still have the patterns and I still have their sample that they made, but I haven't made it for myself yet. So it's probably time we tackle that project. All right, everybody. I think that I have come to the end of our presentation on the different patterns and the skill levels needed for those patterns. But I do have one other Caterpillar product to show you. Let me go grab it. It's on my sewing machine. So you're going to be able to see back here, my sewing machine's kind of a mess because I just put all that 30s fabric right on top of my machine. But we've got this great little light. And on the side of my machine, I have added a cradle for this light. Well, this is a neat product that Caterpillar just told me about, and I thought, what a great idea. You could have a cradle on any area of your sewing room. You could have it on your nightstand. You could put this over your bed. It attaches with a little piece of Velcro. So, you know those command strips come with Velcro. So you could put a Velcro command strip just about anywhere. You wouldn't ruin anything because those command strips come right off. Then you just feed this light into the holder and then you can turn on that light. Now it does have 3 different intensity levels. That's the brightest, and that is off. Excuse me. Now I had that away from the camera because I didn't want that brightness to show and just obliterate that camera. So let's do it again. 1, 2, 3. Look how bright that is. I'm all washed out. So imagine this little LED lamp over your sewing machine. Then once you have it set in position, you can move that light anywhere you want it to go. So I have it hanging right down on the side of my sewing machine, so I can bring this light right on top of my work. I can put it behind the sewing machine, or I can put it in front of the sewing machine while this is on the side. It reaches both ways, behind the needle or in front of the needle. If I'm using it for filming, I'm going to want this behind the needle because I don't want it to obliterate the color in front of that needle so you all can see it. But when I'm sewing for myself, I think it's going to go right in front of the needle. And once again, we've got all those different brightness levels. So I'm super excited about this product. So the Caterpillar lamp comes with just one of these rechargeable lamps. So you plug it in right here from a USB. This is a micro USB, I believe. And you plug it in right here. On full tilt, on full strength, you get 4 hours of service out of this rechargeable light. And then it goes up from there. On medium, I think it was 7 hours. And on low, I believe you get 12 to 14 hours. So it's rechargeable. It has 3 different intensity levels. It has the cradle that you can put anywhere. So you can carry this around with you, use it as a book light, use it as a reading light at night, use it by your TV where you're hand stitching and you don't want to have the big overhead light on. So use this light anywhere. It is going to be just fabulous. Now, I haven't put them on my website yet because I haven't written my reviews. Quite honestly, I haven't done any sewing on my sewing machine since I received this light last Friday. So I'm going to get to doing some sewing today. I have a full week of sewing planned. I can't wait to start blanket stitching my Almost in Baltimore blocks that we made inside Ahead of the Curve membership. So it's time I finish up my Almost in Baltimore blocks. So I'm going to go put my Caterpillar light back on my sewing machine, get some stitching done. And as soon as I know I'm going to love this, but as soon as I'm able to write the review on this product, I will make sure I get these lights up on the website. They're inexpensive. They're about $30 for the light and the cradle. There are replacement cradles, so you can have them everywhere in your home to just slide that light down into and use it anywhere that you need a little bit of extra light. Okay, you'd like to talk to Cindy Brown. I'm in Wind Gap. I think she lives close to me. Wonderful. Facebook user, tell me who it is that would like to talk to Cindy Brown. Of course, if you're on Facebook, Cindy, you're going to be seeing that person's name. I don't see it because I'm here on StreamYard, not on Facebook. All right, wonderful. Well, I'm glad I've been able to present to you some of these new products. The Caterpillar products are brand new. The patterns have been around for ages. I have lots of existing patterns. We're working on some new patterns. So know that if you are a self-starter and you learn well from the written word, the patterns are a great way for you to learn rotary cut applique. If you need a little bit more coaching, if you want the community, if you want some help with your patterns, then go ahead and look at Ahead of the Curve membership. It's a great way where we take every one of these patterns, turn them into a 3, 6, or even an 8-hour workshop, and we teach all of the patterns on Ahead of the Curve membership. Now, I shouldn't say all of the patterns, because we do have a couple of patterns out there, like the cherry with leaves and like My Magical Garden, that are not taught inside the membership. Those 9-month-long projects, those year-long projects are a little bit big for our members. Our members get to concentrate on the quick and easy projects, the short-term projects, and we have all of those inside the membership on demand for our gold and platinum level members. So if you have any questions about the membership, just jot them down here in the comments and I will get back to you, or reach out to me by the email. You can reach me, Sue, at SuePellinDesigns.com. Reach Penny at SuePellinDesigns.com, and ask any questions that you have. We love supporting you on your journey to be a better appliquer. Now, happy applique, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.